Grace, peace, and mercy are yours. I speak to you today in the name of the three in one and one in three. Amen. Merry Christmas, everyone. Again, yes, it's still Christmas. Our church is dressed up in white paraments. We're still singing Christmas carols and exuding all kinds of Christmas cheer. I'm sure all of you are doing that, have been doing that since Christmas nonstop. But today's gospel is pretty much a nightmare, right? We have state-sponsored infanticide, parents fleeing in the middle of the night, Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because, as Matthew puts it, with devastating simplicity, they are no more. It's the kind of text that makes you want to check the lectionary calendar and say, couldn't we have waited until like Lent for this one? But Matthew won't let us. He puts this massacre right in the middle of the Christmas story, right in the middle of our great celebration. And it makes me wonder, what kind of Christmas is this? Because here's the Christmas I think we want, at least it's the kind of Christmas I want. I want God to fix everything from a distance. We want the Christmas where everyone's sweater fits, where the turkey isn't dry, and nobody brings up politics. We want angelic intervention, divine protection, a force field around the innocent. We want God to save us from the world, from violence, from grief, from human messiness, from everything that hurts. That's the God we think we need. God, like the heavenly version of Chip and Joanna Gaines, the cosmic fixer-upper who swoops in, makes it right, and flies back out. Any Chip and Joanna Gaines fans in the room? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not the only one. All while looking incredibly stylish and cracking the most whimsical of jokes as he goes about his work. But that's not just how we want God to operate, it's how we want to operate. We want to manage our lives from up here, from the head, from the swirl of anxious thoughts where we can predict and control and worry our way to safety. And I'm sure you all know that feeling when your mind is racing through every terrible possibility, when you're 3 steps ahead of your actual life, running scenarios, catastrophizing, trying to think your way into solving life before you even step into it. That's us trying to be the God of our own making, trying to solve things from a distance, trying to stay clean and safe and above it all. But that's not the God that we get in Jesus. Our reading from Hebrews says Jesus had to become human in every respect. Not most respects or just the nice respects, not just the Hallmark Channel respects. Jesus had to become human in every respect. Jesus was born into a world where empires slaughter children to protect their power, where families become refugees in the night, where, again, Rachel, the ghost of that ancient mother of Israel buried near Bethlehem, weeps and won't be comforted. Just such a haunting image. But in Jesus, we see God doesn't save us from the world. God saves the world by showing us that God is already in it completely. God authored the cosmos, yet in Jesus, the infinite steps into the finite masterpiece of creation, holding all of God's fullness in the body of a baby. By nursing, by learning to walk, by getting hungry and tired and heartbroken, and by dying. The manger and the massacre aren't contradictions. They're both saying the same thing. God is here. not watching from a distance or solving it from heaven with some kind of divine remote control, but here, in the violence, in the chaos, in the beauty and the terror of being actually bodily alive. Here's what I think anxiety is. It's us trying to float above our lives instead of living in them. It's the mind spinning, frantically trying to fix things by thinking about them instead of being present to them. It's living in your head instead of in your body. The head is the place of past and future. It's where the tree of knowledge of good and evil is planted, metaphorically maybe. The body is the instrument for the presence of God in the eternal now. Anxiety feels productive, right? It tricks us into thinking that all the churning and planning and worst case scenarioing is somehow keeping us safe. But it's not. It's just keeping us away from the moment, from our breath, from the people we love. One of my favorite writers, his name is David White, he says, anxiety is what happens when we refuse to let our hearts fully break. Anxiety is what happens when we refuse to let our hearts fully break. I had to read that one twice. When we can't bear to feel the full measure of what we're carrying. So we float up into our heads and we worry instead of weep. Weeping, White says, is closer to enlightenment than living in an illusory state of control. Because when we weep, we allow ourselves to break open. And that's when the channel with the divine is opened as well. The gospel says this: God doesn't float. God sinks all the way down into flesh, into time, into this beautiful, terrible, fragile world. Jesus doesn't come to explain why bad things happen. He comes to be with us when they do. He joins Rachel in her weeping, and then he goes all the way down into death itself. Because that's what incarnation means. God doesn't skip the hard parts. God doesn't give us the sanitized version. God gets baptized in all of it. Every grief you've carried, every loss that sunk a knife into your chest, every night you've wept and wondered if anyone sees, Jesus has been there, fully in it, with you. Because for God, there is no outside, no safe distance. God's being is love, and love can only be fully present, not in past regrets or in future worries, but here, right now, and now, and now. So when your mind is spinning, when you're catastrophizing about the future or replaying the past or trying to think your way out of feeling something, maybe that swirl in your belly isn't just stress. Maybe it's God saying, no, child, come back down. Sink into your body. This is where I birthed you. This is where you're alive. Trust me, I'm preaching myself here, like I always do. The cure for anxiety isn't more thinking, better planning, or tighter control. The cure is incarnation. We start with breathing. We take our breath for granted so often, right? And I'm talking like actual breathing, not that shallow chest panic that sometimes comes up, but real breath that goes all the way down. Feeling your feet on the ground, being exactly where you are instead of 3 steps ahead or 3 decades behind. This is why we have contemplative prayer circle here every month. We sit together in silence. We practice centering prayer, learning to sink below the swirl of anxious thoughts and just be present. Present to God, to our breath, and to each other, to this moment. It's not about achieving some kind of elated, mystical state. It's about coming back down into your body, into the world, into the place where God is. Here's another thing David White says. Anxiety cannot cure itself. You can't think your way out of anxiety. You can't stress your way out of anxiety, right? You can't worry your way to peace. The anxious mind can't fix the anxious mind. The cure is what God already did, fully entering the chaos instead of floating above it. And this isn't just about our personal anxiety, this is about our collective anxiety as well. The way we doom scroll through the news that we can't do anything about. The way we allow pundits to keep us outraged about the big stuff online instead of showing up to the little stuff in person. We want to fix everything from a distance. We want our politics clean. We want our causes to be totally righteous, and we want our hands to be totally unstained. We want to help without actually touching anyone. We want to heal without having to love or empathize with those we despise. To love without the risk of heartbreak. But y'all know as well as I do that love is chock full of heartbreak. And God is in the middle of all of it. With you in your beautiful kitchen right here in the Monterey Bay area, with immigrants and refugees, with grieving mothers, with those whose expression of themselves doesn't fit the status quo, with the dying, with the grieving, with the people you care for, and those you find unredeemable, with the parts of yourself that you find unredeemable. God is here, incarnate, in it, refusing to stay safe. Yes, the world can be dangerous. Empires still rage. Rachel still weeps to this day, but we light the candles anyway. We sing the carols, and we feast at this table because God refuses to float above life. God refuses to leave when the going gets tough. And because God stays, God reveals what was always happening, that all of creation is already shot through with divine life, in a constant state of transfiguration. The movement is always from love toward love, from the inside out. So in a few minutes, you're going to come forward and put out your hands. You're going to receive bread and dip it into the wine, into Jesus' very own lifeblood. Now, this isn't about some abstract notion of accepting God into your heart, whatever that means. This is about letting your actual feet carry you forward and then holding God in your shaking hands, dipping that bread into the wine, and feeling the warmth of Christ entering your very bodily, incarnate being. This is divine presence, real presence, the allness of God's life poured into yours, you, a beloved, incarnate child of God. Oh, come, let us adore him. Amen.